Stage Doors at Dusk, Confessions by Half Hour. My name is Mateo, and I make other people louder without letting them deafen themselves. I'm an A2, the stagehand who lives in the headsets and microphones, at a downtown theater that used to be a movie palace and now sells sincerity with better acoustics. On paper, I check batteries, tape lavs to rib cages, run the God mic that tells 100 hearts to calm down. In practice, I translate appetite. Actors want to be loved by strangers, directors want silence to behave, producers want miracles billed as consumables. I carry a roll of surgical tape that forgives sweat, a Sharpie that speaks props into existence, and a coil of XLR that I use like a rosary. The prompt book is the only scripture I obey without edits. I live with Andrew. He's a school librarian who can talk a teenager out of setting a book on fire by convincing them the spark isn't the page's fault. He comes home with ink on his thumb and the patience of a desk that has learned to be leaned on. He kisses me like he found a better word. We have a rule on an index card under a magnet shaped like a stage door. Say it by half hour. We learned the hard way that midnight honesty turns into monologues and morning turns into reviews. The Thursday the RF spectrum behaved and I didn't. The show we're teching, new musical Old Wounds, was rough enough to need trust and flashy enough to attract the kind of donors who like to be seen reconsidering. The designer had finally wrangled the onstage rain to be less baptize, more whisper. The SM's headset sounded like a confession, even when it was just traffic. The understudy decided to be excellent by accident. At 4:58 p.m., my phone buzzed with the joint email Andrew and I use for deliveries and other nouns we agree to carry. Thank you for your stay, the Bristol. Time, 12:083:02. Points, 200 added. Half hour stood in my chest like a friend who doesn't knock. I didn't call him. Our second rule covers what can still be walked off, 2 loops through the wings before nomming it. I walked past the phantom glow of the mixer, the rack of sweat-damp costumes, the pile of towels that have learned patience. The ghost light hummed its one holy note, you already know. He arrived like a rumor you decide to audition. Vale, he said, no first name until later because the slick ones know how to land Cashin, producing consultant. His badge said investor relations, which is a euphemism for teaching money to clap on 2 and 4. He watched me tape a mic to a ribcage and smiled like he had an extra hand to lend my job. You make breath behave, he murmured. Drink after we stop pretending to rehearse. Andrew texted at 5, a photo of a stack of returns and a pencil that had been chewed by hope. Late, parent meeting, half hour. I sent a heart and a note. I'll be present. Then the rain cue finally did what we asked. The actress cried on pitch, the director said thank you, and Cass stood at my elbow with careful gravity. The Bristol bar exists to launder receipts into anecdotes. Cass sat in a velvet corner where the lamp believes in cheekbones. He asked me what it feels like to hold somebody's confession to their skin and keep it from feeding back. I told him it feels like pressing on a bruise and calling it music. He touched the back of my hand with 2 fingers, the place where pulse learns grammar, and asked nothing with his mouth. The elevator asked for me. I said yes with all the courage of a man who's good at making other people loud. His suite smelled like citrus and a carpet that forgives. He kissed like a man who has been paid to wait and finally got promoted. He pressed me against the window, and the city pretended not to be jealous. He was generous where biography trains men to be, selfish where a mouth reminds a man he's alive. I put my hands where agreements live. We left the lamp on because daylight had been stapled to the terms in the lobby. After, he lay on his back and smiled at the ceiling sprinkler like it could comp his absolution. You'll forgive him, he said, meaning Andrew, meaning the librarian who knows where all my quiet lives. I'll speak by half hour, I said, and he grinned like a donor whose name just got spelled right on a wall. Andrew was home when I came in, cross-legged on the couch with 3 books and a mug like ceremony. At 7:29 he set the mug down, walked to the kitchen, and stood under the stage door magnet with me. I said the nouns: hotel, elevator, mouth, hands, yes. I didn't audition adjectives. He listened like a man who has talked others out of fire with patience and the right index finger. "Do you love him?" he asked. "No italics, we have no use for them." "I love the hour where nobody asks me to make miracles polite," I said. He nodded, took the marker, and wrote under our rule in librarian print: "No rooms we can't name at this table. If anything breaks, we break it before midnight together." He underlined together, recapped the marker with authority, and kissed my temple like a footnote. Cass did not behave like a man who reads scripts for endings. He came to the theater with a consultant's humility and a producer's knack for being seen in the right doorway. He sent me a photo of the ghost light with the caption "proof," as if light required affidavits. He learned 2 wardrobe names and said them like tips. He told the director he could broaden the donor base while flirting with a lighting tree. He lingered near my mixer and asked if he could watch me draft a sound narrative for the lobby. I told him sound prefers verbs. The city's gossip vertical, that hungry animal with a press badge, posted a grainy Bristol elevator still, my shoulder his mouth, a caption that tried to do something unholy with lav. Andrew didn't forward it. He printed it and taped it inside the cupboard where we keep spices, then took it down at half hour to make room for a grocery list. This is how he archives: nothing heavy where a daily hand reaches. Props love our kind of sin. The Bristol called the box office to say housekeeping had found a ring beneath the chaise in a room tied to the email I use when I want receipts to keep my secrets. Thin gold, engraved C+M inside like arithmetic pretending to be law. Not mine. The clerk asked if I wanted to retrieve it. "Hold for owner," I said with my God Mike voice, the one that turns sentiment into cue. Work tried to rescue me with decent problems. A body mic kept flirting with a collarbone and we taped it into obedience. The rain cue decided to baptize the front row and we taught it Episcopal manners. A monitor wedge blew and I carried it out like a tired child. Cass texted, "You are very good when the room is afraid." I wrote back, "I prefer accurate," and didn't hit send. Then the little red LED winked where no light should be. Alice from Props found a recorder, thumb-sized, taped, patient. Under the green room bench, its light a private confession. It had been collecting the soft part of us. Nervous humming, whispered bargains, the air before the God Mike says 5 to places. The sticker on the battery belonged to a firm hired by development to enhance engagement. Cass had name-dropped their founder at the bar as if knowing a man is a moral position. I peeled the thing off with a palette knife and dropped it into a zip bag because rumor is oil. Legal wrote a memo with "regrettable" 4 times and "consent" twice. We printed signs in sans serif that refused to be adorable: recording devices prohibited, external hardware by authorization only. We put a decal on the green room door that says "Talk here stays here." Crew rolled their eyes and believed me anyway. I told Andrew at half hour. He brewed tea with 3 exact seconds on the pour and stood until standing meant choose. "Are we being interesting?" he asked. "Or are we being us?" He asks it like a God Mike in a room full of panic, without volume, with authority. "Us," I said. Cass tried a finale that would have worked on a different stage. He waited for me by the stage door with the ring between 2 fingers, C+M flashing like a dare, and said, "Say my name." He meant Cashin, and also the other thing men mean when they ask to be named. Caution, I said, because facts deserve pronunciation. Exit, I added, because my job is telling noise where to go. If you came for erotics notarized, I can only give you what I can carry. There was a wall and a yes and hands where we said they would be, a mouth that believed in the moment more than the man. The lamp stayed on because daylight had been invited, and we are not rude. It was heat without metaphor, bodies behaving like their own language for a merciful hour. If you came for intrigue plated with garnish, a ring with arithmetic pretending to be law, a recorder with ambitions taped under a bench meant for doubt, an elevator camera that believes it writes reviews, a consultant who confuses narrative with structure. If you came for redemption, theaters don't sell it. We sell repetition until honesty looks like craft. The recorder turned into policy and then into habit. The firm was dismissed with a paragraph that spelled values like a slogan. Signs went up that looked like good manners in daylight. The SM added sweep for devices to the half hour. Donors pretended not to be disappointed they couldn't take home what wasn't theirs. Crew stopped whispering to the floor. The ring's other initial turned up in cufflinks. Carter. There is always a Carter. Collected it at the Bristol with a lawyer whose kindness had practiced. He nodded at me with the face men use when they are grateful for boredom. I nodded back with the backstage expression that means we will not be useful to your plot. Andrew and I practiced boring until it relearned itself. One night in the kitchen, he put his hand at my throat with the sort of pressure that is a question and a craft and asked, "Here." I said, "Now," because consent keeps better time than lust. After, he laughed into my shoulder like a book closing without regret. We ate toast that burned on one edge and didn't apologize to the butter. The lamp stayed on. Work stayed work. An actor cried in the wings because applause felt like theft. I looped tape and reminded them breath is a cue they can call for themselves. The director asked me if honesty can be turned up. I said yes, but it feeds back if you aim it wrong. I labeled a cable that has been unlabeled for years and felt like a cop who learned kindness. I walked the wings twice whenever my head threatened to turn the show into a trial. Sometimes at 02:00, I stand behind the scrim and listen to an empty theater try to remember who it belongs to. The god mic sits on its little altar. The ghost light threads a logic into shadows. I think of my father showing me how to solder patience to a cable without melting the truth. I think of the index card on our fridge and how paper breathes if you let it. I think of a ring engraved with arithmetic and how math flatters stories it cannot keep. We added a line to our rule because rules like company. In Andrew's neat librarian script, if you burn something, do it where I can help find water. We didn't laminate it. Laminating is what you do to lies you plan to reuse. The stage door magnet holds. Cass will find another theater to orbit, another elevator to rehearse sincerity in, another ring to engrave with somebody else's initials. I will still carry gaffer tape like sacrament and a coil of cable like a prayer. For a few hours at a time, I make confessions louder and kinder, and then mute them on purpose. For a few hours at a time, I put my mouth only on promises I can keep. Then I go home if the city allows it, stand under a little stage door with a man who believes books and people can be repaired, and say the thing. We leave the lamp on or off as needed. And when half hour begs the room for discipline, I lift the god mic, breathe, and tell 100 hearts gently where to go.